All right, it's Andreas Hale of ESPN, and I'm here with the women's super middleweight champion in boxing, Savannah Marshall. But on June 8th, making her PFL debut against Marilla Vargas. This is Savannah Marshall. Savannah, I'm going to cut to the chase. If the fight with Claressa went the other way, would you be competing in MMA today?
Oh God, I have been asked that one. Probably not. No,
No. I'm,
no,
I'm, I'm
no. I wouldn't. No.
is has the end game really always been, regardless of how I get another chance at Claressa, whether it's in the cage, whether it's in a boxing ring? I know it sounds stalkerish, but it feels like the end game for you is like I gotta get this one back one way or another,
Oh,
right?
yeah, 100%. Look, if the PFL would have come to me and said, "Would you be interested in signing a contract and joining our league?" I'd have said no. They come to me and said, "Look, would you be interested in trying your hand at MMA with a potential fight with Clarissa in the cage?" And that was what swayed it for me. I'm I'm not interested in fighting people who've got 15 years experience in wrestling or black belt and BJJ. I want that win back off Carissa, whether it would be in the ring or the cage.
But you've tried trained MMA before, like you've tried your hand at this before, but now you're taking it really serious. How difficult is it? I've talked to boxers who've tried MMA and MMA fighters who've tried boxing. It's very different. And when you're training really hard, like defend takedowns and things of that nature, how difficult has it been for you to make that full transition to not go to your old habits of boxing, but now have to deal with things like leg kicks and people shooting for takedowns and working inside the clinch? How has that been for you?
Hard, really hard, and I underestimated it. I thought it would be. I thought. I, I thought it would be a lot easier than what it is, and I've shocked myself. I thought what benefited me in boxing would help me in MMA, and it doesn't. It really doesn't. I've had to totally change my style. I was very on the back foot. I've had to come over the front foot, square up. Yeah, total overhaul.
Do you feel ready for this debut now? Like now that you've had the training under your belt and you've been working at this, how ready do you feel for this debut?
The PFL come to me about oh, three months ago and asked me if I wanted to be on June the 8th in Newcastle. And I remember thinking, oh, June the 8th, it's only 3 or 4 months away. Oh God, am I going to be ready? And then I thought, when would you ever be ready for an MMA fight? There's so many disciplines. There's so many, even BJJ. There's so many chokes, holds, wrestling. There's so many different takedowns. Thai boxing, so many different kicks. When would you ever be ready? So I just thought, I'm just gonna have to set a day, go for it, train as hard as I can, get myself in the best shape, and go from there. So yeah, 5 weeks time, I'll be ready.
You saw Clarissa fight in the PFL. You saw her in Saudi. And I know watching from the outside, you go, nah, she's not really good at this, right? Like she kind of sucks, like because she's new to it. But now that you trained and you've seen how hard she works and how difficult it is, I know you're never going to be friends, but how much do you respect her trying her hand at something different and now you're doing the same thing?
Oh, 100%. 100%. I seen her debut and I remember thinking the same thing. And then I went to her last fight in Saudi and I watched and I spoke to her after and she started talking about it and I was like, Clarissa, I get it. I absolutely get it. I can see what you're doing. I can appreciate what you're doing because to go from, like I said, they're even just changing your boxing stance. You can't. It's a total different sport. It really is.
Let me ask you this. I know you've been training. I think I read that you've been working with Tom Aspinall a little bit. Is that right?
Yeah, I've been training with his dad, Andy. Yeah.
And I mean, obviously Aspinall is the UFC interim heavyweight champion. This is a tremendous fighter. How much do you feel like you've gleaned off of him and his team, and how much has that helped you in preparation?
I've known Andy and Tom a long time. I've known them about 7 or 8 years. So obviously the kind of the trust's there, which is something that you can't really build on overnight. And so that's the main thing for me. I trust them. I like how Andy trains, and also I can't being up and close to Tom. I've trained with him before in boxing, but not MMA. I can see his strength in what works for him, what doesn't work for him, and his footwork and uh his muscle reactions and his fast twitch muscle fibers. Sorry, he's just a phenomenal athlete. So I'm watching him and thinking, God, I should do a little bit of that, or maybe that'll work for me. So it's great to be training alongside someone like that.
Now, I know you're not here to, like you said, you don't want to fight people who've been doing MMA for 15 years. The end game is to fight Claressa. Have they given you a timeline of how long it would take or how many wins it would take for you and Claressa to end up in their smart cage, or do you have no idea when this could happen?
I think this all depends on how I get on June the 8th. I could get in there and just absolutely get annihilated, get my arm snapped, and then I think that might be the end of that. But look, after June the 8th, probably June the 9th, I think I'd have a lot better idea of when that could be possible.
What do you know about your opponent? I mean, she's 1-2 in MMA. Have you watched any tape on her? Is there anything that you've been able to take in preparation for this fight with Vargas?
She's quite a bit of a question mark actually, because I read somewhere that she's kickboxing champion. So obviously she's got the legs decent, and but I've never a first fight she knocked someone out in 12 seconds. A second two fight she got taken down and subbed. So I've never actually seen her attempt to take down or anything of that matter, which you would think someone would do with me being a stand-up striker. So she is a question mark, yeah.
I mean, the idea that this woman may not take you down and this may be a stand-up battle, it's got to be a little exciting though, right? Like you may not have to worry about this woman like trying to drag you to the canvas because standing up is kind of where you want to be, I would assume.
It is, and I think, when I get in there, it might be a totally different matter. But I've been training hard. I've been going over different scenarios constantly, wrestling, grappling, BJJ. You know what, I want to have a go of it. I know, I don't just bores me a little bit. I don't just want to stand there and, like I said, that might all go out the window during the 8th. But I'd like to think if I was in that scenario, I could give it a good go.
I mean, dude, let's be real. If Savannah Marshall wins by like arm bar or rear naked choke, should we be really surprised, or is there a lot of tricks in the bag that we may end up seeing on June 8th?
We'll have to see. We'll have to see.
All right, I know boxing's not in the rearview mirror. You're still the undisputed champion. But how do you balance this now? Because the training is so different, spacing is different, footwork
Yeah.
is different. Do you immediately start thinking about, okay, I need to defend these titles, or is it let me stick with this MMA thing for a little while because I don't want to toggle back and forth?
Yeah, I've just dedicated like 8 months to MMA. I've dipped my toe back in boxing, sparring, kind of keep my hands up, that sort of thing. But it's totally different. Sounds totally stupid. I actually boxing sparred the other day, and I thought, Jesus Christ, the punch output is so much higher, which you would think it was because all you're doing is punching. Whereas MMA, you have to watch out for kicks, takedowns, there's all that thrown in the mix. But I didn't actually realise how high the punch output was compared to MMA.
So it's a totally different world for you out there.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Um, I know you again. I know you and Claressa aren't friends, but regardless of what happens, how this ends up, if you end up fighting Claressa, do you think win or lose in an MMA fight with her? How much do you want to get her back in the boxing ring? Is that like the ultimate goal? Like, yes, this MMA thing is really cool and I want to do it, but it's like, I need to get her back in the boxing ring. Is that something you have to have before your boxing career ends?
100%. And I think the kind of thing that pushed me into this PFL deal was the fact that the boxing rematch just wasn't happening. Um, I was a bit devastated that it never happened straight after. There was talks of it happening straight after the Francian fight, never materialised. And that's just boxing politics. Boxers just want to fight, but there's always ifs and buts and that sort of thing going on in the background, and it just hasn't happened. which like I get like I said, pushed me into this position.
Do you look back? I don't know how often do you look at that particular loss. It's the only loss of your pro career. But how much have you looked at that loss and go, damn, I could have done this different? I mean, it happens all the time when you're in a fight, but do you look at
Mm.
that tape and go, man, this wasn't me, or was this she was just a better woman on that night?
Yeah, 100%. She was. I can't deny that she was the better boxer. She had everything spot on. I believe that I went in there with the wrong game plan, um, and that's what kind of infuriates me more because I might be the only person on the planet, but I still believe I beat her.
The idea of fighting at
Just not on that
Newcastle.
night.
The idea of this PFL debut being in Newcastle. I mean, listen, you fought in front of your countrymen before and your countrywomen before, and you know how exciting it be. What's that walk going to be like for you? Do you think you're going to have any nerves heading into your first PFL fight, or is a fight at this point?
To be honest, I don't get nervous for boxing. I haven't been nervous for boxing for a long time. Boxing fights, I'm very experienced. I just don't get nervous. And this, it's more the unknown. So I'm already thinking, God, what's fight week going to be like? Because you're not just going to go and hit the pad. I'm going to be having a bit of a wrestle fight week and this and that and keep myself sharp. And then even down to, God, I'm going to be walking to the cage with flip flops on. Like even them smallest details, it's all unknown for me. It's all unknown. Even yeah, normally at this point I'd be designing my fight shorts and me picking up boots I'm gonna wear and yeah, it's just none of that.
None of that. All right, a couple more for you. One, I do want to ask you on the boxing side of things. Uh, Everybody knows Ryan Garcia failed a drug test, and a lot of people are discussing how failed drug tests should be handled in sports, it's particularly combat sports. Obviously, there was a situation with Lisa Bumgarner in women's boxing with something similar that
Hmm.
happened. When you hear that somebody fails a drug test, what is your immediate thought? Because you guys are in the hurt business, and this could really damage somebody's future. How do you think these things should be handled?
I think it's absolutely shocking. I think it's honestly, I think it's abysmal. I think that it's only now there's been, like you said, there's been a couple of fighters probably in the past 12, 24 months that have been caught, but I think it's been going on for years. And there's always rumours. There's always rumours in the boxing world. I, I just think it's shocking. I think you're responsible for what goes in your body, even contaminated food. Um, I've been part of a UCAD, UK Sports, since I was 18, a long time. And do you know, I remember being told when I first got on the program at 18, you can take, I don't know if you'll have it in America, there's a thing called night nurse, what helps you go to sleep when you've got a chesty cough, things like that. Night nurse is fine, but you can't take day nurse because it's like a stimulant.
Mhm.
But that's down to you to do that research. And goodness knows what he's taken. Don't know the ins and outs of it, but there's no smoke without fire for me.
Mm. The last question is there a fight deal for you at PFL? Is it multiple fights, or is this a fight by fight basis on how long you continue to do MMA?
No, it's a 4 fight deal. It's it's a brilliant deal. The PFL are amazing. They're one of the best organisations I've ever worked with, and it's refreshing. It's really refreshing. I don't know if it's an MMA thing, but it's the boxing world could be um a bit what's the word, a bit crazy at times. So it's nice to just have a bit of a clear path.
Gotcha. Well, Savannah, I appreciate the time. I look forward to you making your MMA debut on June 8th and walking out in flip flops. That should be fun for you. But hopefully, I'll get to talk to you soon again, especially win or lose, however this goes. And can't wait to see you back in the boxing ring as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All
Cheers.
right.